I'm up and out early next morning to meet part of the team returning western quolls to the wild, here in the Flinders Ranges National Park. We're heading to a soft release pen. Orphan juveniles that were rescued, hand-reared and are now big enough for release were put in a week ago so they could acclimatise to their new surroundings. We've got 2 to collect from this pen that will need to be given an identity before they're released. These are 2 of 7 born to a female let go in the initial release. Sadly, she was killed by a feral cat, so her young were taken into care at Adelaide Zoo before they were brought back here.
Let's see what we've got. We've got one?
Yeah.
Ah, look at that. Settle down, mate. Hey. Cover him up. Settle down, buddy. So you just put the bag over the front. Hopping straight in, look at that. Beauty. Got another one.
Yeah.
Ah, look at that. Look at that. Little female, maybe? The bag gets tucked under the trap and right around it, and it's obviously a dark bag, so as soon as that door goes up, the quoll sees the darkness within the bag, darts straight in, and he's captured. Right to go?
Yep. In.
Okay, got him. There you have it. Little quoll. We've got both the ones we needed from in here.
The initial release of 41 quolls went really well, and a checkup a few months later showed they were fit and healthy. A couple were lost to foxes or feral cats, but all of the females that were captured had active pouches. That fact alone was a massive boost for the team and meant the next generation of Flinders quolls was on the way. The juveniles are proof of that, and with them safely boxed away until their release later this afternoon, we can get on with our next job. The team has been called together for a briefing on tonight's work. It's time for another check on the population. They need to know it's healthy and, most importantly, reproducing. The traps have to be set late in the afternoon, so none of the quolls are caught in the heat of the day. Not much chance of that happening, given the quolls are mostly nocturnal, but it's a precaution worth taking. Catherine Mosley is leading the team dedicated to returning western quolls to the ranges.
A lot of releases are in fenced areas or offshore islands, but this one's not. It's quite different.
It is, and it's got its own set of challenges. So you get continual reinvasion of feral animals, so you're continually having to bait and remove feral cats and foxes. And also when you release the quolls, they can go up to 100 kilometres away, so you've got to try and find them in such a large area.
Yeah, and there's no quick fix solution. This is a big picture, long-term project.
That's it. Fox baiting happens, 4 times a year here. You've just got to keep those foxes down in the long term, otherwise they haven't really got a chance.
Now, the initial release, how successful has that been?
Yeah, it's been really good. We've lost some to cats, and we've had really good breeding success with all our females breeding, and we're just starting to catch new animals now.
If cat numbers are low and you're losing some quolls, well, quolls have other predators in the wild also, and so you expect some die off, but if your reproduction rate outweighs that, you're
That's
looking
right.
good.
And they can have 6 pouch young at a time, breed every year, so you can sort of get a very large increase in population very quickly.
Very quickly. So I'm assuming the females would have come into oestrus. Did they have time to settle in and mate? What happened there?
Yeah, so we released them in April, and we got our first juvenile pouch young in the pouch, June, and they all started coming out of the pouch around November, December, and we're just starting to see those juveniles dispersing now. So
babies are a bit of an indication that something's going right.
That's right. Basically it's telling us that they're finding food all right, there's good shelter sites for them, and they just got straight into it, and pretty well maximum breeding potential was realised in the first year.
Quolls are reasonably small, but in a landscape like this, they're a big predator. What sort of function ecologically do you see them performing here?
Yeah, one of the things that's been really interesting since we released them is they've been feeding on a lot of rabbits. And so when we're controlling the cats and foxes here, there's obviously nothing then controlling the rabbits, which are also introduced. So having the quolls here feeding on the rabbits will hopefully keep that, introduced animal in check.
Yeah.
With 25 traps to set, the team has got a lot of ground to cover this evening.
Bag goes over. Just for a bit of protection. It's not cold here, but it'll make the quoll feel nice and secure inside for the little amount of time he's in there.
It only remains to be seen what we get tomorrow morning. Later tonight, I'll be meeting up with Catherine again to release the juveniles. That gives me just enough time to pop out of the pound to catch up with something I'm quite familiar with. Quolls weren't the first species in the ranges to benefit from a change in thinking towards the environment. A little further up the range, there's a population of a certain kind of wallaby that's a favourite of mine.
In the early 90s, a group of rangers and local landholders set about putting an end to the loss of the local yellowfoot rock wallaby population.
Until the 1920s, hunters had a field day supplying the fur trade with the prize pelts. In 1908 alone, one fur trader in Sydney sold 92,000 rock wallaby skins. And what the shotgun missed, land clearing and introduced predators like cats and foxes did their best to finish off.
20 years ago, those rangers concluded there was probably less than 50 left in the wild in the Flinders Ranges National Park.
But I'm told numbers are back on the rise. Nowhere near where they used to be, but well over 1,000 are now believed to be inhabiting the ranges today, and that's all thanks to the Bounce Back program. The yellowfoot was once common in arid mountain areas down the eastern side of the country and around to here in South Australia. Today, it's only found in small pockets of land in New South Wales and here. The Victorian and Queensland populations are long gone.
One of the Bounce Back program's greatest successes is the fact that yellowfoots are increasing in numbers and moving out into new areas, repopulating rocky slopes and caves where only a century ago they would have been found in the thousands.
They love these rocky outcrops. Caves and overhangs provide shelter from daytime temperatures that can reach 40 degrees, and they're an excellent means of escape.
There was an adult male just tucked up in this cave, and after a while he decided he'd had enough and he took off over the top of the hill. I just climbed up here and it's easy to understand why they shelter in caves like this. It's so much cooler on the shady side of the range. And you get up in a cave like that and the temperature drops even more. Just up there are two wallabies, and the one at the back is a female with a large joey. Now, over the next few months, that joey's going to get too big for the pouch, and what happens between joey and mum is one reason why they're so endangered. When the joey gets too big for the pouch, but still dependent on mum's milk, maybe 1 or 2 suckles a day, mum will begin to leave the joey up on the rocks, and she'll come down to feed on grass and drink water. When she does so, that joey up there is vulnerable. They used to have to deal with things like dingoes and quolls, but since European settlement, you throw in the fox, the cat and human pressure, it's proved too much to deal with. There's a good reason that mum leaves the joey up there. When mum comes down to the ground to feed, predators on the ground are much faster than on that rock face. The rock face is the wallaby's domain. And one of the remarkable things is when mum has a drink, she goes back up onto the rocks and she actually regurgitates the water. And as she does so and it dribbles out of her mouth, the joey has a drink. That way, the joey doesn't have to come down to drink and put himself in even more danger. I've been watching the wallabies, and in their domain, they're superb athletes. Point to point, nothing is going to beat them on these rocks.
Just like this group are doing now, they'll emerge around dusk to feed. Yellowfoots can go long periods without water, but if it's sparse, they're known to travel many kilometres to drink. Since Bounce Back began, over 15,000 feral goats, the wallabies' biggest competition for food on these rocks, have been taken out of the environment and the ranges.
15,000 of just one introduced species is a lot of competition in itself. Add to that rabbits and predation from foxes, it's no wonder these beautiful little creatures were on the verge of extinction.
The original Bounce Back initiative seems to be working. It's great to see yellowfoots thriving, but I've got a date to keep back at the pound. I'll never get bored of driving these roads. The scenery is stunning and the wildlife plentiful. The quolls themselves are a welcome sight back in this country, and I feel lucky to be playing a part, however small it may be.
Right, well, she's ready to go, so
This is a good spot?
this is a good spot.
Okay,
Let's do it.
very excited. Off you go, mate. That was amazing. Took off and kept running and then bunkered down. That was a very enjoyable moment for me.
It's great to see him back in the wild.
Yeah, too right.
Quolls are solitary and like their own territory, so we've travelled further into the pound for the next release.
This is our little girl.
So this is Rocket.
This is Rocket.
She's going to go off like a rocket.
This is the little one I put the collar on.
It is, yeah. She should have her collar on.
She took off.
That was great.
Yeah, there's nothing better than letting an animal go in the wild.
She's doing well. All right, let's go.
Yesterday I helped the Bounce Back team set 25 traps in and around Wilpena Pound in South Australia's Flinders Ranges. Catherine and her team released 41 quolls in the area a few months back. The idea today is to get a general feel of how they're going. We're on the clock though.
It's summer and temperatures can soar really early.
That means we have to be out at the crack of dawn to check the traps. We don't want any of the little quolls getting stressed.
The teams have spread out and are checking traps in the different areas that they've been set. We checked about 5 traps that were empty. Now we've come to one that's full with an adult quoll.
Hold it down.
9430 943 203 46687.
It's Biggs. Oh, great.
You know him?
Yep.
Yeah? That's an adult male.
Releases, yep.
Original release?
Yep.
Isn't that fantastic? This quoll's name is Biggs and he's an adult male that was part of the original release. Now, because they know him, there's just some field data that's collected, like a weight, a general observation, obviously microchip to identify who he is, and he'll actually be released back into this area now. Inside, we've just noticed a scat, which is quoll dropping. And it's very interesting, and all the scats are collected because they can be analysed to see what the quolls are eating. This one's got a bit of fur, a little bit of bone. It's quite dense. What's the rest? There's likely just different types of meat. What are they normally
Yeah, they're
eating?
pretty broad diet, but we're getting a lot of rabbit fur, a lot of small mammals, and even bird feathers and
Yep.
bird eggs in there.
So rabbits are interesting because they're an introduced feral, so the quolls might actually help to control their numbers.
Yeah, hopefully, because we're controlling the cats and foxes that are their natural predators, then hopefully the quolls can take over.
Beauty. And you find, what, some reptiles, frogs?
Yep, reptile scales, lots of invertebrates. They seem to like centipedes and moths and things like that.
Okay, you want that in the bag?
Yes, thank you.
Yep. Rather than hold Biggs all day, it's still early morning, we're going to let him go now. But different than releasing animals at night when you just let them go into the environment, they're aerial predators like eagles, so the safe bet is to put him down into this rabbit warren and he'll stay there throughout the day, come out at night and find his way home. All right. He's gone all the way in too, that's great.
I've left Catherine to check the other traps. and met up with Arthur Coulthard, who's a member of the Adnyamatna people, the traditional owners of the land round here. To them, these are proud times. The return of Inya, as they call the western quoll, is like the return of a long-lost friend.
All the occasions that I've spent coming out here with the Inya release, every time it's always great. And the Adnyamatna community and Adnyamatna Yuras, the people themselves, really welcome Inya back to Yatta country.
And just like so much of the land and its inhabitants, the Inya appears in a Dreamtime story.
Idna's story comes from the northern Flinders. There's the Idna and the Radna, the Goanna. Idna and the Radna were partners back in the Dreamtime, but the Adnyamatna elders wouldn't allow that because they were breaking the law. So Idna and the Radna ran away, but the hunting party tracked them up and speared Idna, and Idna fell to the ground. That's why it's got its spots on its back.
So that's where it gets the spots.
That's where the spots come from. And Radna got hit with the boomerang. So every time you see its tail, the tail will go swishy, swishy, swishy. And the boomerang swish, and swishy, swishy. And it's got marks down its side of its ribs. So.
This morning's trap check was successful. 4 quolls were found. You can't catch them all the time. Maybe the quolls are stuffed to the gills with all the rabbits they're devouring. The traps will be set again tonight. It's often the case that intrusions into a territory are treated with suspicion on the first night. However, just as I'm about to leave the Flinders, another one pops up.
Feel it.
Taddy. Oh, it can't be Taddy.
It's a big,
too heavy.
No, it's Damien.
Could be Chilpa.
Damien.
Could be York.
Damien.
Zeus.
Damien.
658270.
Gobble.
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 All right.
Yeah,
We haven't
that's
got it
good.
for a while.
That's good.
Oh, I don't know who that is.
Not as good as Eloise though. That was very exciting.
That's great.
And this one is giving reason for quite a bit of excitement.
Oh, look at that.
Oh,
That's
she
good.
has
How
bred.
many? 6.
Hey.
6 young. That's great.
So there you go. Another 6 baby quolls born into the wild here in the Flinders Ranges.
This is an example of a wild reintroduction that's working. It's taken incredible effort from a conservation organisation named FAME, the South Australian Government and the people I've met here on the ground today.